Did I push the wrong button? No idea. Let's try this again. Okay. I think we are good. Double checking. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. And I am tardy. I tried to do this morning, but I did not have everything ready. So, it has been a crazy week. I'm on Coke now. Ran out of coffee. So let's just get started and get through this, shall we? Ask a question, make it easy. My brain cannot handle any difficult questions. So, what are you learning about Business Central? What's going on? Do you know the name of your Business Central partner? You'll learn about that in a few minutes. Yeah, hope you had a good week. And last weekend, el fin de semana, I took my daughter driving. She is still learning to drive. She's a fairly good driver, but we went on the freeway, which California freeway, little nervous, but it was, I don't know, Saturday morning. It was early in the morning, so not much traffic, perfect time to do it. So we had a good time, had fun, top down, convertible. Yeah. So she's learning to practice driving. I'm still alive. And a little visit by my cats. That is Shyla, one of the two feral strays that we adopted. She is finally, after like 3 or 4 years now, finally chilling out, calming down, and learning how to be a cat. She is quite the character. And then we have our boy, Ronan. And so, one moment, let me deal with this. Our boy Ronan just chilling on his perch overlooking his entire universe of catdom. And then on our weekend travels, we stop by a Michael's or a craft store or something, and the Halloween decorations are out in full force. It is still August, and tons of Halloween stuff coming out, and including this mug, which I thought was appropriate for I Need Coffee. I take my coffee with sugar and scream. So, with that, weekly projects. Just, this will be a slightly different format because I was literally on calls every day of the week, nonstop, for hours and hours and hours back to back. So, I don't know that I accomplished anything other than just calls, but I did calls, at least 2 calls a day with the Berlin interns to keep them busy, work on tasks, get them organized and oriented. And we figured out hours and holidays because El Salvador has different holidays than the United States. So we had to figure that out. And timesheets. Had to teach them how to collect time, non-billable, billable, how to enter timesheets in Business Central. It doesn't sound exciting, but those are some of the things you need to do when you're bringing people on board, bringing in interns who haven't worked in this type of consulting environment before. So we had a team call to discuss that, how we're going to do our timesheets, how we're going to code them in Business Central. And we maintain a to-do list. We use Asana for a glorified project management task list, to-do list. So we now have dozens and dozens, if not a couple hundred items for the Berlin interns to study, to learn, to do. So we're very busy, including many items for learning. So when we hear about a topic, like this morning, we talk about global dimensions. And why they're called global dimensions, I'm not yet sure, but they're different than shortcut dimensions. And why don't they just call them dimensions instead of shortcut dimensions? Like, I get global dimensions maybe, like the 2 global dimensions that are more universally accessible, but why are the remaining dimensions called shortcut dimensions? Things to ponder. So we add those topics to the learning list, like, hey, go look up how to set up additional dimensions, how to get those on reports, screens, whatever. That's one of the topics that we are learning about. And support calls. Had several interesting support calls One was with a customer who uses one feature. This is relating to Dynamics GP. One customer in, gosh, I think it has probably been 15 years. We've only had 2 customers use this feature in Dynamics GP. I don't remember when the last one was, but this customer is now using it. I think they're the only second one. So we had to figure out how to use this feature, how to get it to work with our product. And we just didn't remember. It had literally been years. So again, common theme, you support a product for long enough and customers come up with ways of using it. You're like, really? It's wild that there are only 1 or 2 customers that use certain products in certain ways, but the feature exists, so you're kind of stuck supporting it. And I checked in on this yesterday. This is what I believe is an AL compiler bug. It is on GitHub under the Microsoft AL repository. It is issue number 7813. And there's a QR code up in the top there in case you want to look at it. And so our DeBath opened this 28 days ago as of yesterday. And it has not been it says needs triage, which I assume it requires triage, which means it has not been assigned, I'm guessing, or it has not been reviewed. And we are still getting pipeline failures on Next Major due to what we believe is this bug. So I'm getting a little nervous that we've encountered this since July 19th, and we literally can't test or publish on Next Major if we're using the caption class, if we're assigning a value to caption class. So I posted a comment asking if this is going to get assigned. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting. So the clock is ticking, and Next Major will be current in roughly a month, 45 days or so, sometime in October, I believe. So I am watching and waiting anxiously. This is a pet peeve of mine. Please don't do this. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe it might be like, oh, someone knows what Sunday, Monday, Tuesday was. I literally don't know what day of the week it is. And when I go and search through messages or whatever, and I see Tuesday, it's like, what day is that? I don't remember what Tuesday is. I'm constantly having to look for a calendar. And then similar behavior in Outlook last week, 2 weeks ago, earlier this month, 3 weeks ago, like the relative references just don't work for me. Am I the only one? And then, 28 days ago, that just came from GitHub, right? Like 28 days ago, can you just put the date? I was literally unable to find in a glance what date the issue was submitted. It only said 28 days ago. And I'm like, oh, come on. And the worst of all, because I have to go through these dates in YouTube itself, 6 days ago, 13 days ago, 2 weeks ago, like I need to know the date that I did this. Now, fortunately, I have those in the slides, but who thinks this is a good idea? Why can't they just put, August 13th or August 16th or whatever? Very strange pattern I'm seeing constantly in software UI, these relative references. Someone thinks it's a good idea, like they think waffles and hamburgers and potato chips UI navigation is a good idea. I'm just not a fan. Maybe it's me. Am I a grumpy old man? Like, let me know. Does anyone like this to see that something happened 3 weeks ago? Does that mean 21 days, 18 days, 24 days, 17 days? I don't know. So let me know. In El Salvador, there was a big earthquake. As you may know, I've traveled to El Salvador several times. We have our office there in Berlin, El Salvador, and they experienced a 6.1 earthquake on August 28th, Wednesday, I believe. See how easy that was? August 28th. You don't need to tell me it was 2 days ago or a Wednesday. I can figure that out if you give me the date. So it was off the coast. Pretty big deal, multiple aftershocks. Amazingly, no damage in El Salvador was reported or widely publicized, just a little shaken up. So that was a big deal. Let me tell you, a 6, that is going to get your attention. A 3, you're like, okay, earthquake. 4, you're like, ooh, I felt that. 5, you're starting to get a little nervous. 6 is a pretty big deal. Surprisingly, I spoke with some people. They had no idea anything happened. So not sure how that works, if they were driving, walking, or what. And in cybersecurity news, I don't think I've talked about this because this just happened Saturday. But last week I told you about some spam I got on a simple login alias that was generated specifically for one website and only for that website. And it had a random suffix, randomly generated value. I've never used it anywhere else. And I had donated to this website twice. And I didn't realize it, and I had generated a second simple login alias, and I received the same spam email on both randomly generated dedicated simple login aliases for this nonprofit website. And I contacted them, and they say, no one else has reported that. I'm sure you used those aliases somewhere else, or they got disclosed somehow. Well, interestingly, either that Friday afternoon or early Saturday, Tim Wappett, friend in the UK, he says, hey, I just watched your live stream and I just saw this article about a vulnerability. And it turns out the website uses WordPress, and this person, Bob McKay, posted on LinkedIn about a WordPress vulnerability in a plugin called GiveWP. What is that for? It's for donations for, say, nonprofits and charities. And if anyone is using WordPress, I hope you know it has got to be one of the most insecure and worst platforms in terms of security, especially if you are using plugins. Not necessarily WordPress itself, but their plugin architecture is an absolute security nightmare. So just don't store anything of value there and just prepare to get skimmed and exploited. Like the approximately 100,000 websites that use the GiveWP plugin. That plugin had a severe vulnerability that let anyone submit or, I guess, inject malicious code to the website. And so, the GiveWP plugin up to 3.14.1 had a critical vulnerability. And game over for all these organizations who have no idea they're still running the vulnerable plugin unless they're using a service that auto updates. So over 100,000 websites are estimated to be using this plugin, and they are at risk. And thinking about it with Tim after the fact, the person who responded to me from the charity said that, none of our employees who are donors got the spam. And so I'm thinking that maybe their donor database was not fully compromised. But given the description of the plugin vulnerability, the attackers could have injected PHP for a skimmer, a data skimmer. So it may have been present for a couple months and only been capturing the submissions of people who donated in the last several months since that skimmer was injected. So kind of like a gas station skimmer, it's only capturing the credit card or ATM information of customers who use the gas pump from that point forward. So that's my speculation. I gave this information to charity and they're like, oh, thanks, we'll look into it. Then they closed the ticket. So yeah, I don't think anyone cares, unfortunately, but yep, there's 100,000 websites being compromised, short of the few who updated. And on the Summit NA Roadshows event calendar, we have Atlanta, Indianapolis, and Houston. If you're anywhere near those cities, go check out dynamicscommunities.com/summit-roadshow and go check out one of the events. And upcoming events, Próximos Eventos, Days of Knowledge Americas in a couple weeks in September in Atlanta, Summit North America, October in San Antonio, Texas, Directions EMEA, November 6 through 8 in Vienna. And the calls for proposals were open until September, but they moved that date up to August 31st, tomorrow. I believe maybe it's end of day today, but they're essentially closing submissions for sessions for Directions EMEA. So if you haven't submitted, at least go, if you plan on going to Vienna, go check out the registration, hotels, travel, etc. And I learned of 2 new events in November in Sydney. I believe that is Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken, November 28th. Yes, that is Thursday, November 28th, although it's in Sydney. So I think that's the 27th in the US. BC Day, Australia, New Zealand. Go to businesscentralday.co.nz and check out that one-day conference for Australia, New Zealand region. And then there is a conference called, I don't know if this is a new conference or if this how many years they've been doing this. I think they had one last year. Engage 2024, that is December 9th through 12th. But I think it's only a 3-day conference. So the first day might be the arrival and orientation or the reception. That is in St. Petersburg, Florida, but you would fly into Tampa, Florida. And that is by, I think it's WWMSTUG, which I apologize, I did not take the time to see what that stands for. So we have September, October, 2 in November, and finally 1 in December in Florida. So if you're trying to avoid the cold weather in New England region or the eastern United States, hey, take a trip down to sunny Florida and attend the conference there. And a non-Business Central, non-computer, non-technical related tool of the week. I just happened to, I might have mentioned this on Twitter at least, a long time ago, I got sick of cheap tire pressure gauges. Like your just average one you buy off of Amazon or even at the auto parts store. They're cheap, they're poorly made, they're inaccurate. I literally had one where the needle just fell off within the gauge itself. It was like, you're kidding me. And it was brand new, it just fell apart. And so the cheap consumer ones are pretty much garbage as far as I can tell. So I finally got fed up. I researched tire gauges and there were 2 brands that were contenders. I went with one called Longacre. I think this is a US company with a US made product, but I don't remember. But it is a premium tire pressure gauge, and I believe they are used in racing and auto sports. So this is like automotive garage, commercial grade, auto racing type gauge. And they have many models depending on what you need, what pressure range, what size, dry or liquid filled. So I went with a Longacre tire pressure gauge. It's a 0 to 60 PSI. And it is oil filled, which I think helps with altitude and make it more accurate. So I got that from Summit Racing, which is a website in the US that sells that type of racing equipment. And so I had that, but then I still had either a big bulky tire inflator or I had my compressor in my garage that I have to plug in, pressurize, drag the hose out. It just became a hassle. Now that my daughter's driving, we've got a 3rd car. Of course, my daughter and my wife will never check their tire pressure, so it's up to me to kind of pay attention and check these things before they drive or, every month or before I go on a trip. And it just became a hassle. So since I got the new tire gauge, I figure, fine, I give up. I've got the Milwaukee M18 batteries for all the tool sets. So I splurged and got this Milwaukee M18 inflator. Phenomenal. Of course, I use it and I'm like, man, I should have bought this months ago. And it's fantastic. You just put in the digital pressure that you need. In this case, it was 38 PSI. You plug it in, you hit go. It auto-inflates. It even inflates a little past the number. And then once it stops, you see the pressure drop down to exactly the desired tire pressure. I'm like, okay, it literally took like 3 seconds per tire to correct the pressure in the tire. So like well worth it. It's super compact. You can throw it in the back of the car if you're going camping or traveling or whatever. I still have my 4-wheel drive off-roading high volume compressor, but for just the average household use, this thing is awesome. I haven't tested on a larger tire truck, so my SUV has larger tires. It won't be as fast for that, but it seemed very fast for what it was doing. So that's my recommendation of the tool of the week, Longacre tire gauges and the Milwaukee inflator. And on a completely different note, back to Dynamics. Customers. If you're a Business Central customer, a Dynamics GP customer, a CRM customer, a Microsoft customer, whatever, if you use any of the Microsoft products or a commercial product, ERP system, you name it, please know your partner. I regularly get on calls with customers. I support a third-party product, an ISV solution, and I get on calls with them. And, well, turns out the problem is not related to my product. Turns out it's related to their configuration in the ERP system, bad data, they did something wrong, they don't understand how something works, and they call me because I apparently answer the phone when no one else does. So I had a call with a customer. Who is your Dynamics partner? Like, blank stare, just no recognition of what this even meant. It's like, who helps you with your ERP software? I don't know. Who do you pay your fees to, your annual maintenance to, your subscription fees? I don't know. Like, I didn't know how to help them. So finally, after like 10 minutes of asking various questions to try and triangulate who their partner is, I learned that a person who had been helping them with their ERP system was someone that I'm aware of. I know the name and they've been in the industry for a while. They just have disappeared. We don't know if they're okay. We don't know if like they're sick or something happened. They just disappeared last month. So track them, or we're tracing down how that relationship occurred. It occurred through a staffing firm. I don't know why. That was apparently a referral from a third party who they use for their industry-specific solution that integrates with Dynamics GP. But that's not all. The third party is not their GP partner. It turns out that they apparently bought GP through another industry-specific solution that they no longer use. So it's this complicated mess of things that's probably occurred over many years, and they just don't remember. And they effectively, as far as I could tell, they no longer have a relationship with the company that they originally bought with. So I'm telling them to go back, try and make contact, find a resource, and kind of reconstruct what's going on, because someone's done a lot of work in their environment, and it's not my job to support that, as I only support the ISV solution. So it's something that is unfortunately very common, and given the way that SaaS software and third-party products interact in industry-specific solutions and reseller relationships, sometimes customers, especially if they've had turnover, they simply don't know. They don't have relationships. So if you're a customer, try to figure out who your Dynamics partner is. And if you're a partner who is receiving the recurring revenue, subscription revenue, whatever it is with your partners, please touch base occasionally and keep that relationship current. Like, just say, hey, how's it going? Everything working okay? Can I help you with anything? Cool? Great. I'll talk to you in 6 months. So I run into this regularly. I had a call this morning, actually, which is why I was delayed. So the customer has a partner who contacted me for support as a third-party ISV. I worked with the customer, and then, like, your problem's not with my product, it's with your ERP system. You need to talk to your partner, but they have hosted ERP. It's Dynamics GP hosted. So we just had to have a call with 4 different parties just to try to figure out what's going on and figure out who's responsible for what. So even when we know the partner, there are 4 people involved for supporting for one issue. So it's moderately complex, kind of messy. And so I'm like, great, not my issue. I'll leave it to the experts here. And it was kind of a painful call even then, like trying to make changes to the production database directly, delete records. I'm like, can I make a recommendation to refresh your test company and do some testing in that first? Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm like, okay, I'm out. So yeah, sometimes I just can't get involved. It just, right, it's not my role, for better or worse. So with that rant, excellence update with the ERP Center of Excellence in Berlin, El Salvador. Jocelyn has completed the first draft of our English assessment test, which is based on her college training as an English teacher for the TOEFL exam, test of English as a foreign language. However, while looking this up, I recently learned there is a CEFR standard for language. I think that's Common European Framework Reference or something for language, and it's basically a structure for assessing someone's skill level or how advanced they are for any given language. And it starts with things like subject-verb agreement, plurals, contractions, pronouns, conjugation, all of these types of grammatical structures, and it tests you gradually and incrementally in those different categories and gets into idioms and then reading comprehension, answering long-form questions. So pretty comprehensive stuff. So Jocelyn has created a first draft of that, which was not easy. Some of the questions are easy, but once I got down there, like I don't know how to reconstruct sentences in the passive voice. First time I've done that in memory, that was very strange for me, even as a native English speaker. So I was puzzled by some of those. So not an easy test, let me tell you. So she is working on that. That is about to get pushed as an online exam for our new candidates. And, that's the CEFR, Common European Framework of Reference for languages. So there it is. So it starts with A1, A2, then B, and then C. And if you get to C2 and complete all those, it's very involved. It is surprising. And even native English speakers, honestly, on that exam would be scratching their heads at some of the questions, I'm pretty sure. So, and then in preparation for my visit to Berlin, I picked up some inexpensive studio lights. There's a podcasting studio there that I hope the ERP Center of Excellence candidates and interns will start using in order to do, say, live streams like this, instructional videos, podcasts, whatever they want to do. So right now it is bare light bulbs and those shop lights with the aluminum reflector lamps. There are a couple of those, so very bare budget operation in Berlin. But I saw these at the DynamicsCon Live conference for like the video booth that a vendor had brought in. And so I picked them up, very inexpensive relative to what LED panels used to cost, just dirt cheap relatively. So they seem very good quality. I don't know what the light looks like, or how well it's going to work in the studio, but it's certainly better than the basic LED light bulbs we have in there now. And then I finally booked hold up, got to get this one on top. Un momento. I finally booked the hotel room at the resort. Sorry. 1, 2, uno, dos, tres. There we go. Booked. Easy for you to say. I booked the hotel rooms at the resort this is at El Cuco Beach. It is on the eastern side of El Salvador, south of Berlin, about 2 hours. So we're going to be driving out there, and we're going to have 3 days, 2 nights at the Las Olas Resort, something like that. I forget the name. But I think we pretty much booked the whole place out. 4 out of 5 rooms. So we're going to have a good time, have some strategic retreat type discussions, planning, relaxing, hanging out. And yeah, so that's pretty fancy for the interns of the ERP Center of Excellence. Looks pretty nice. And moving on to appreciating expertise. This one I came across, I don't know when these things just randomly pop into the YouTube feed. This one is Sean the Sheepman, and I don't know where he's at, if it's UK or somewhere in Europe, but he has at least three collies, and he is doing sheep herding and other herding of animals on a very large farm. And in this video, holy cow, these collies it is stunning. I'm sure it takes quite a bit of training, but they are hundreds of yards away from him, and he's calling out commands, and they behave faster and more responsive than any robot on the planet. It's like they have a wired connection to his brain, and they're just eagerly awaiting. Then they just bolt out like fur missiles, going to herd these sheep or goats or whatever he's got to herd, and it is truly phenomenal watching them work. So really enjoyable videos. I have no idea how he's doing it. You hear the commands. I don't understand a single word, but these two dogs are absolutely happy. They're smiling every minute of the day when they're out herding. So really phenomenal. It is just absolute expertise between the herder and the dogs. And clearly there's innate talent in those dogs. There's something in their DNA. In my free time, someone mentioned this book, The Celestine Prophecy. I don't know what year this came out. It's been out for a while. But they said, oh, this was an amazing book. It was something to the effect of it was like life-changing for them and like some profound discovery they had. I tried to listen to the audiobook and I couldn't do it. It was just so like, it required some suspension of disbelief, and it was kind of the theme of the story. I was like, sorry, I just can't buy into this whole mythical storyline that is going on in the book. So I had to bail out on it. But then I just dug through my existing library and found an old book that I don't think I ever finished. And apparently a classic historical book, 1776 by David McCullough, and really phenomenal. So I started it over again, and the book starts out, it provides some background, but one of the just crazy scenes was the depiction of life in Boston at the time, 1775, I think. Unbelievable. They're burning fences and fence posts and every piece of wood they can find just to survive the winter. They're freezing to death. These are both the colonists and the British residents and soldiers. Basically, everyone in Boston was both freezing to death and starving to death. It was like, it's right up there with a science fiction book, just set in history and real. So really, absolutely wild story. If you're into history, absolutely fascinating. And so now I'm past Boston and on to New York, the New York conflict and how things are escalating. So very interesting read or listen. And then this weekend, I did receive all the car stereo parts from Crutchfield that I ordered last week. We have a Pioneer Apple CarPlay touchscreen head unit, backup camera, some Infinity speakers, 4 Infinity speakers, and apparently they don't sell the basic steering wheel control harnesses to maintain factory. I don't know if they do, but the guy said they offer this now. And this is the Maestro, which I think I've heard of. And for better or worse, it's a programmable unit that you have to plug in a laptop, use a USB cable, then you program the buttons. I assume you select your car. It interprets the signals. And hopefully that goes well. I'll have to watch a few videos, but it's like 4 different components, the box, the harness, you got to program it, So kind of more involved than I would have liked, but we'll see how well it works. And all the speaker install kits and the head unit adapters. So that is on deck for this weekend. And I think I'll follow up. Oh, last one, Alien. I watched the movie Alien with my daughter. I think it was last weekend or during the week. We all had colds, so we watched the movie Alien. Phenomenal. It'd been a long time. Rewatching a movie from 1979 was truly phenomenal. And the first time I saw this, my dad, when I was a kid, somehow got a copy of it on Betamax, which tells you something, right? So I think it was a bootleg copy on Betamax in 1979, 1980, whenever that was. And it was a big deal. And yeah, phenomenal movie. The attention to detail is incredible. If you realize like what it must have been like to produce the sets, the scenes, the special effects and things like that in 1979. Really amazing job. So I'll probably follow up and watch Aliens maybe this weekend. And then lastly, it was my 18th anniversary this week. So we had colds, we had the open school night or whatever the school orientation is. So couldn't do much, but we watched When Harry Met Sally, classic movie, hilarious relationship movie. So that was entertaining. So with that, that is all I've got. So if you're a partner, please contact your customers. Just say, hi, how's it going? Everything going good? Can I help you? You need anything? And if you're a customer, if you've had rotation or turnover or new people, or you haven't talked to your partner in a while, contact them, say, hey, I got a question for you. Can you help me maintain that relationship, please? Because it is painful to have a call with a customer who has spent tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, on their internal business systems, and they don't know who they paid. That is a true tragedy. So with that, have a good one. Adios. And how do I get out of here?